What are some of the most common mistakes that you see artists make?
Oh my gosh, the biggest one that I see all the time is they go straight for paid marketers or playlisters
Mhm.
or press, and they think that just because the end goal is exposure,
Mhm.
but the way that marketers and press and playlisters have like take advantage of that opportunity is because they're like, oh well, we can help you gain exposure, but majority of times artists don't have a strong foundation, right?
Live the life you love.
What's going on, y'all? Today's guest is Isabella Bedoya. She's the CEO and founder of Fame Hackers, where she teaches musicians how to use digital marketing and organic marketing strategies to help build their funnel and build a profitable business. She helps musicians make money. Before starting her own company, Fame Hackers, Isabella used to work as head of A&R for Trend Deaf, which is a subsidiary label under the major label Sony Music. This was a really, really fun and inspiring conversation. Isabella does not hold back. We take a really deep dive into sales funnels or customer journeys and talk about really in depth about the awareness and education stage, right? How do you find your ideal fan or your ideal customer, and how do you introduce them to your music through paid and organic strategies and potentially build a new fan out of a complete stranger, right? And she's some really, really great, amazing tips that she shares on this episode. This was a really, really fun conversation. I think you're going to learn a lot and going to be very inspired after this one. If to learn more about Isabella, visit thefamehackers.com and take her free webinar. She has a free webinar that she offers on the website. Make sure you check that out. And all the show notes and everything we talk about are available at makingitwithchrisg.com/podcast/132 for episode number 132. Thank you all so much for listening and for all the support of the podcast. Please rate and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, please leave a quick comment on the video and leave any questions. I'd love to engage with y'all in the comments and answer some questions for y'all. Also gives me a great idea on what other content to create. We've been very busy on the YouTube channel creating weekly quick tips, which are not really that quick. They're usually between 7 and 20-minute videos, little mini lessons about all things music industry. And then before we go on to our conversation with Isabella, we have another review. Thank you all so much for these amazing reviews. So this one is from C Charmed. It's from March 22nd, and the title is Great Advice for Life. Chris brings on a great variety of guests who share their struggles as well as lessons and learn on how to make it in the world that is constantly changing. A great listen for your daily commute or when you're at home and would like some inspiration. Thank you so much for that review. If you hear me read this review out loud, reach out to me. All our contact info is on the website, makingitwithchrisg.com. You can go to contact and fill out the form, and I'd love to send you one of Kamal's books as a little gift if you don't have that yet. If not, we'll find another book. But Kamal Mu was a guest on the podcast, and he's also the book that we use for that I use for one of my music business classes, and just a really great, quick little guide for all things legal, the legal bit side of the business. Right, he's a really amazing entertainment attorney. So I'd love to send you that book if you heard your review being read on the podcast. All right. Now, I hope you enjoy this conversation with the amazing Isabella Bedoya.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So I see you're from Florida also, just like me. You went to FSU. Were you born in Florida? Where'd you grow up and how'd you land at FSU?
Yeah, actually, I was born in Florida. I grew up in Peru, though. Fun fact: I grew up in
Peru.
South America. Yeah,
Awesome.
and then I came back to Florida, and then I went to FSU, and then moved to LA. Now I'm back in Florida.
Awesome. And you're in Fort Lauderdale, you said?
Fort Lauderdale, yeah, South Florida.
Awesome. What
about you?
let you do? I'm originally so I'm living in Orlando now.
Cool.
I'm originally from Germany, actually.
Wow.
So I was going to ask you where in Peru you're from, because my dad is from Peru. He's from Lima.
Yeah.
Where'd you live in Peru?
Also in Lima. I think everyone goes to the capital.
Yeah. Was there? I know there's certain areas like just like Miami, like certain districts. So like,
Yeah.
He was from Miraflores. I think that's
Okay.
probably one. Is that
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I lived there actually for a year, but the most of the time that I was there, we were in San Isidro, which is like a neighboring neighborhood. Yeah.
Awesome. What's your favorite Peruvian food to eat?
Oh gosh, definitely ceviche.
Ceviche is good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love lomo saltado. That's
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
can't get past that. I heard in Peru they have like sandwiches, like lomo saltado sandwiches that you can just
Yeah,
buy.
they have it here in South Florida too. They have like you know how you have like your mozzarella sticks, but
Mhm.
instead now they're filling them with like the lomo saltado inside.
Oh
So
man,
yeah.
where in South Florida can I find that?
It's actually they just opened. It's like 5 minutes down the street from me. It's called it's a Peruvian restaurant actually. Like it's a franchise from Lima and they just
Mhm.
opened it here. It's called I don't remember the name. I'll find it for you and I'll send it to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And then have you spent, besides being in Tallahassee, have you spent most of your time in Fort Lauderdale?
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
When you went to why FSU?
FSU, oh gosh. I think it was because honestly, I think it was just because my friends were going there.
Okay. Are you a Seminoles fan? I know they're pretty
Oh,
hardcore
yeah.
with their sports over there.
Oh yeah. No, the school spirit is insane. I applied initially to all the schools in Florida, and FSU just had a great reputation at that time.
Mhm.
So, and then also my close friends were going there, so I was like, oh, might as well.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to live in New Orleans. That's where I met my wife. So she's from Louisiana, and every time I drive there, I've done that drive so many times. Tallahassee is the stop we're the halfway stop where we stay overnight. So I've
Yeah.
spent quite a bit of time there too. What kind of coursework and training did you do at FSU that kind of helped prep you for what you've done in the music industry? Like was it all at FSU kind of courses you've taken, or did you take some courses outside of school as well? Like what's your training background?
Yeah, actually in FSU I didn't do anything related to music. I actually was pre-med. Once I finished the pre-med track, I realized I didn't really want to do that. So I then followed the closest thing to culinary. I figured my biggest fear has always been working in an office in a cubicle.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, how do I not do that? So I had this idea to become a private chef. Because then in my head the whole time I was like, if I can become a private chef, I can find a way into the entertainment industry, right? So I ended up graduating food and nutrition science, and then that's what I did. I became a private chef.
That's awesome. Are you a fan of Chef Gordon? You know him?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's funny. Always screaming at people.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stories, man. There's a lot of amazing chefs. Was that kind of why you thought being a chef is your way into the music industry? Was that kind of inspiration?
I think it's just because like when you look at the time I remember like seeing a lot of I don't remember what it was exactly. I think it was like on Instagram or Facebook, but I remember seeing a lot of like people that a lot of celebrities coming up and they had a private chef, right? Or they had someone that cooked for them. So then I was like, well, that's less cutthroat, right? Than actually going for a music career. It's still hard. It's still very competitive, but it's not as cutthroat as trying to be an A&R right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. I know when you watch Gordon Ramsay, that seems pretty cutthroat to me.
Yeah, I mean, he is really cutthroat. It is a cutthroat industry, but I didn't really see it as such. So then I just kind of had fun with it, and that's kind of like the attitude I think to have.
Yeah, that's cool. We have quite a few things in common. Being in Florida, having the little bit of Peruvian in us, and then I was pre-med also. I was in medical school, and FSU was the school I was going to try to apply for. Kind of wanted to make my parents proud and have one, either be a doctor or a lawyer, and ended up in the music industry.
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah. So how do you go from going to FSU, from studying to be a chef and being pre-med to now working at Trend Def Studios at Sony? Like, tell me the path that led you there. So if someone was to follow a similar path, wanting to work for a major label and working for one of the subsidiaries and being head of A&R, like what path did you take to get there?
So it's actually it's a very unconventional path.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is once I graduated from FSU, I moved back to South Florida. I knew that I had to, at that point, it was like, I have to be a private chef. And I even tried getting a job at a restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually tried, like, I exhausted all my opportunities. But then I was just like, well, at the end of the day, it's music, right? Music is the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
So so I started applying to be a private chef like all over LA, all over Miami, in the like Star Island and Fisher Island and all these places where you would normally find celebrities.
Mhm.
And one thing led to another. I ended up getting hired. I had 2 weeks to move to Beverly Hills to become a live-in personal chef for this family. 2 weeks into living in Beverly Hills, the whole transition was so fast, and it was like so shocking. I didn't really have time to process that my dreams were actually coming real.
Mhm.
And then 2 weeks after like being in LA, settling in and all of that, I said, okay, well, now I'm in LA. Now I know that this is entertainment industry. Actually,
Mhm.
first night in town, I went on Facebook and I looked for events around entertainment. It happened to be, I think, Oscars weekend. So
Okay.
there was a lot of events on Facebook about, Oscars after parties, this, that, whatever. So first night in town, I'm already networking with people in the industry. Funny enough, I ran into a college friend at this one party.
Oh, wow.
So,
Small world.
like, small world. And she's an actor, so she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just moved here."
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm like, I literally just went on Facebook and found these events. So I networked like crazy. I went on Craigslist. I literally did everything I could to find those opportunities. And a lot of it was just shaking the right, like, hands of the right people and networking with the right people. And yeah, just one thing led to the other. Next thing you know, I'm working for Trend F, but at a different capacity. It first started more as just interning and stuff like that. And then really quickly, I was so dedicated to that job
Mhm.
that really quickly they were like, okay, you're gonna be head of A&R. I had my own interns, and it was just like a full operation.
Mhm. How'd you meet the people from Trend Dev to get that internship? Like,
I
did you
think
see a posting? Did you apply? Did you meet them at one of these events that you went to?
I can't remember. I think it might have been Craigslist.
Okay.
It might have been through Craigslist. And then funny enough, I think it was through Craigslist where it was just like a bunch of people showed up. They showed up also for the same interviews, and that's also where I met some of the friends that I'm still friends with to this day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What was it that because like I know what it's like to apply for one of those jobs. When I applied to be a town buyer at House of Blues in New Orleans, there was hundreds of people that applied.
Yeah.
What was it that you think made you stand out before like everybody else to get that opportunity?
You know what it is, and I hear this all the time. It's and I think this is also what they said to me. It was the fact that I showed up and it was like fully authentic.
Mhm.
And then one thing I remember they said was that I didn't have this like hidden agenda of,
Mhm.
I guess when you're in LA for a while, I was from Florida, so I didn't know that this is like the LA thing. But when you're in LA, people are either social climbers or flaky.
Mhm.
And then a lot of artists try to be A&Rs just for the sake of being in music.
Mhm.
So I didn't have the artist thing going for me. So they're like, all right, already you're like a good fit for that. You don't have any like social climber. Like, it doesn't seem that you're just taking advantage of opportunities, and in a bad way. And then
Mhm.
it was just like I was just fully authentic. Like, whatever I didn't know, I didn't know. Whatever I did know, I knew. And even to the part of like, I had no idea. This is like funny. I didn't even know what an A&R was until like after I'm working as an A&R. And
That's
then I'm
awesome.
like, oh, this is crazy. This is what I've done my whole life. And I guess there's a real title for this. This is the craziest thing.
What interesting story. When you're going to these events and like you're networking, meeting people, so talking about being authentic, like I guess what was your icebreaker? Like when you went up to someone to try to start a conversation, like what advice would you give to someone to kind of break the ice, especially if they're like maybe a little more introverted?
So one of the things that I've learned is to always compliment them, like call them by name. If you don't know the name, like obviously like find out the name,
Mhm.
and compliment them, because the best way. And then the other thing is to get them to talk about themselves, right?
Mhm.
That's how you can get anyone to actually like you,
Mhm.
is you get them to talk about themselves, and they're gonna be like, this is such a great conversation, and then they're gonna get that bubbly feeling.
I love it. Those are two really, really good tips. Because like when the Gary Vee thing, I always talks about adding value to a relationship, and
Yeah.
sometimes you think, okay, I'm just graduated college, I don't really have anything to offer of value, but a compliment can be an offer of value. Making them feel good. Like maybe they're having a bad day, you have no idea what they're going through that day, and then just recognizing something and complimenting that could maybe give them the warm and fuzzies a little bit and make them warm up a little bit to you.
Absolutely. There's also another saying that one of my mentors taught me. It's called HOPE, Live by Hope. HOP stands for help one person every day.
Mm.
So in that same sense of like adding value, if you figure out a way to add value or to like help someone in whatever it is that they are always living in, that's always like a really good way to also come across.
I love that. I love that. What is Trend Dev Studios?
So they're I don't know how much they have changed now. This is like 5 or 6 years ago, but back then it was independent label, or not, sorry, a label for independent artists. A lot of them were hip hop. A lot of them were rap, hip hop. I know that they did a lot of work also with like American Idol contestants, finalists, stuff like that. They worked a lot with independent artists as well. So it was on the label side, they did a lot of work with more like also like features and all that. My main role there though was just scouting talent and also scouting other interns to help scout more talent.
How'd you scout talent? What was your process?
It was a lot of it was through social media, right? So I had to go on like Instagram, I had to go on Facebook, SoundCloud, even Spotify, and I just had to go through and find people that actually had talent and had a following and a real following, right? Because we also see the fake followings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just describe what a real following is.
So a real following is like when you don't have like a blown up account, for example, like let's say they have 100K followers, but maybe 1,000 of them are real. That's not like legit, right? So if you think about it, if you were actually to invest as a label, if you were to invest in the artist, or if that artist was to have a show the next day, and do you really think that 100,000 people would show up? No, probably not.
Right.
Not even 2,000, right? Because the majority of it is fake. So and it's also considered fraud, right? So because you're like defrauding people. So when it's something like that, when you have your engagement rates really low, and your audience quality score is also really low, then that's fake followings.
So you figure out fake following by looking at how much people are engaging with posts that people are posting.
So it's funny because now it's a lot more different than back then. Back then there weren't a lot of tools. So back then we had to like actually do a lot of manual work where we had to go through the comments, make sure the comments are real people. If it's a lot of emojis in the comments, then it's also usually like suspect behavior. If you get a lot of the same type of phrases in the comments as well, that's also suspect because there's a lot of bots that do that.
Yep.
I mean, that whole industry is getting so shady to the point where you can now buy Clubhouse followers, and it's the craziest thing, like why do you want to buy Clubhouse followers? But yeah, a lot of it back then was a lot of manual work of like making sure that the traction that they're getting is legit.
What tools would you use these days to figure it out?
Oh, these days there's so many. These days, also another thing too was making sure that their Spotify to Instagram follower ratio made sense. These days I use tools like there's this one by Influencer Marketing Hub, where you can actually see like analytics, you can see engagement rates, you can see audience quality score. That's the most important thing. But there's a bunch of them. If you go on the internet, the Influencer Marketing Hub one is the most accurate I've seen and I've used. But there's others like Social Blade, Flanks. There's a bunch of tools out there now.
That's cool. One thing I'm gonna turn the conversation to the people listening for a second, because I say this all the time: buying fake streams and fake followers. People in this industry, they're professionals. They know how to figure this stuff out. Not just people at the labels, the promoters too. Like I've been in the promoter world, and we know how to fish out like what's fake followers and real followers. And I've literally done shows with people that had millions of followers and can't sell a ticket to save their life. And I've done shows with people that have 10,000 followers and will sell out 300-400 capacity clubs. And the other bad thing with fake followers is if that translates now over to Spotify and you're buying fake streams, your similar artists that you get paired with, or even on YouTube, your similar videos that you get paired with, that's going to be the wrong audience that you're reaching now, because now you might be a hip hop artist and you're getting paired with metal artists, or you might be a hip hop artist and getting paired with something that has nothing to do with music at all. So it's really, really bad to buy fake streams and fake followers. So don't do it.
I agree with you 100%. And that's also so interesting to hear from your perspective, because it's something for me to always say it and live in it and have to explain that. But even like seeing it from your perspective of like the promoter side of things, it's so important, so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a promoter, also we get hit up by agents and artists and managers constantly, and everyone promises you the world. Oh, we can sell out your venue, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I'm going to do the homework. I'm not going to take your word, because unfortunately people aren't truthful. Like I always tell the artists too, like always undersell yourself. Like I'm in the promoter world, there's something called sandbagging, where we estimate our expenses high and our revenue low. So I always tell the artists, do the same thing. Like tell the venue you can sell 50 tickets, be honest, and tell them you're going to work hard. And this is my marketing plan. It's not going to promote. But then if you sell 7,500 tickets, now they're gonna be like, oh, wow, you beat your goal. And they're going to be excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
true.
What kind of stuff did you do for artists at Trend Defs when they signed with the label? What was their, I guess, what's the journey like from starting to work with them to finishing a campaign, whatever campaign was like a single release, album release?
So a lot of the stuff I was more on the front end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff was just like scouting and then finding them and then passing them off. But in that same aspect, I also found a lot of artists that independently I started helping, and like I also tried the manager route. And when it was like more so just me, kind of like as a side hustle, I helped them more on like, okay, now that they have the songs being produced, now they have like whatever it is that's going on in their careers, how can we actually turn this into a full thing, a full production of, okay, we have to get social media following up, we have to actually get them gigs, we have to get them. So it's like a very versatile role, because not only are you operating as an A&R and scouting talent, all these different things, now you're also handling all of the back end. Right. And that also helped me learn a lot about the industry and how the world operates. And it's a really difficult industry.
It is.
It's a really difficult industry. It's very cutthroat. So you really have to make sure that you're building a strong foundation for yourself to make it easier to leverage deals.
My old marketing director at House of Blues, when I first started, we're just like working in the office one day, and calls coming in, LA calling like Live Nation main office and like yelling at us constantly about this stuff and this stuff, that stuff. And he turns around, he looks at me, he's like, there's the real world and the real way business works, and then there's the music industry, and the music industry is war.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Literally.
Get ready for battle. What are some measurable things that artists can work towards? So I love giving, and of course, like there's lots of different metrics you can look at, and I know this, unfortunately, is all stats and numbers. And a really good advice an agent once gave on the podcast is focus on 8 to 10 markets, right? And try to have a following in those 8 to 10 markets and be able to sell 100 to 200 tickets, be able to sell 400 to 500 tickets in your home market, have a 2-year tour history. What is something that's similar to that, that's tangible, measurable, that you as an A&R would look at, that an artist can work towards?
I think the biggest thing is, especially in today's world, I think the biggest thing is like actually having an engaged following that can convert into sales, right? Because right now, when the world shut down for tours and all that, we kind of reverted to digital. And if you think about it, an influencer is the same thing as what artists had to turn into. And if you really think about it, at the end of the day, an artist is just a brand, right? A brand that creates offers, and these offers, they monetize and they create brand loyalty. So I think the biggest thing that artists should be figuring out right now, aside from like tapping into all these different markets, is how can we actually really hone in on what this ideal fan looks like, hone in on one platform, so you're not like spread out all over the place like Gary Vee says, but he also has like a whole team to do it,
Post 1,000 pieces of content a day.
Yeah, like that's impossible unless you have a team. So, and also that shouldn't be an artist's priority. An artist's priority should be actually, creating music and engaging with fans. So I think if it's anything to actually make it as simple as possible, is just focusing on that one platform, understand our ideal fans, and then actually grow, create offers, monetize that, and then grow that. Once you have money coming in as an artist, a lot of your problems go away, because now you can actually pay into services for the options and solutions.
So you said a lot of things I want to dive into, but before we get there, why did you leave the label? I know you started your own business, Fame Hackers. What made you decide to leave the label and come back to Florida? So
at that time, simultaneously, I was still a private chef. At the end of the day, in LA, you have to have like 2 or 3 jobs. It's a nightmare. So I was still a private chef. I was cooking for people, families, and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it became one of those things of, it wasn't like anything against them. I think that they're great, But for me, it was more a financial decision. Do I actually want to keep working super hard, or do like in music and still not really see a lot of results, or do I want to just live comfortable? So in the beginning, I chose comfortability, but in the process, I was still very in tune with music. I still networked like crazy. I still went to a lot of events in music. I still lived the music profession without doing anything professionally in music. So so at that point, I realized, and I started seeing from a lot of friends, a lot of people that I had worked with before when I was actually working with Trendef, I started seeing a lot of different things happening. And one of the things that really impacted me the most was two things, actually. I saw one of my friends get shelved. I can't remember what label they were signed to. And then the other thing that really impacted me was the biggest life learning lessons that I learned at Trendef was, as long as an artist has digital marketing and e-commerce principles, right, they can actually be successful with their music. So then I realized, okay, one of my friends got shelved. Another one, he found an investor, and an investor like pulled all budget from him. So for 3 years, he couldn't do anything. Till this day, he's still like stuck in this contract. So those were two eye-opening things. And then I was like, well, if that's all you really need to know, then we have to change the industry.
Yeah.
You know? So it was a windy road of how I got to Fame Hackers, but eventually that was like the final destination all along.
What does it mean to get shelved? First one that's hearing that term for the first time.
So to get shelved is literally like you just got signed to a label or a record, you got a record deal, whatever you did, an investor signed you, whatever. And what it means is that they literally all of a sudden pull all budget from you. So let's say that they were going to help you with marketing. Now there's no marketing. Let's say that they had budget for production, for engineers. Now there's no budget. So they put you on the back burner because they have to allocate their new expenses over to whatever artist is priority at the moment.
And then when you're shelved, can you release music independently on your own?
It depends on contracts, but no. But most of the times, no.
Yeah, we just did a so I also teach at FIU in Miami, and we did a workshop through Kanye West record deal, because like I don't know if you remember last summer he posted his entire record contract, and I was like, yes, educational gold. So we went through his contract, and it's insane the language in some of these things. But like speaking of getting shelved, like there's a part where once he delivers the album, the label has a year to release it. And then if the label doesn't release it within a year and the year mark hits, then he can give them notice. And then once he gives them notice, they have 60 days to respond to the notice. And then if they don't respond again, they get another 60 days. So it's like just ways to like procrastinate built into the contract. And by the time it's actually ready to release, they're like, okay, let's release this. It could be a year and a half old, 2 years old, and you might be like, okay, well, this is old music. We're not really going to release it anymore. It's crazy the language in these contracts and what artists, like, I guess, sign like their entire life away for this stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and people don't know that. You see, like, people just go for the money grab, and they forget that it's, at the end of the day, it's still not a money grab. It's a loan that they have to pay back, and a lot of the times they'll make it also very difficult to pay back.
Yeah. So Fame Hackers, tell me a bit about what Fame Hackers is and what it is you do for artists.
So Fame Hackers, again, it was just like a windy road of how we got here. But at the end of the day, I realized that the biggest thing is to actually, if we can kind of like teach a man how to fish mentality, you know, if we can actually coach artists and like consult record label owners and stuff like that, music startups, and show them that, you know, at the end of the day, you just need to understand digital marketing principles and e-commerce, then essentially the name Fame Hackers is an acronym, right? Because it stands for foundation, audience, monetization, and exposure. And if you can crack all four of those pillars, then you should have a really successful music career.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see artists make?
Oh my gosh, the biggest one that I see all the time is they go straight for paid marketers or playlisters or press, and they think that just because the end goal is exposure, but the way that marketers and press and playlisters have like take advantage of that opportunity is because they're like, oh, well, we can help you gain exposure, but majority of times artists don't have a strong foundation, right? So and this is like a huge mindset shift. If you were to tell an investor, or like, let's say a dentist, if you were to tell a dentist, invest into marketing, the dentist is going to be, cool, how do I get my money back, right? And then the marketers will be like, oh, you sell this service, we'll sell this service, you should get like 150% ROI return. It's okay, cool, that's a smart decision. I'm going to invest into marketing. Artists, there's no marketers that tell you, oh, you're going to make your money back X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So that's already the biggest thing that we're tackling up. Before you should get involved into paid marketing, well, we have to have a monetization strategy in place. How can we get the money back so that you can be a smart investor, making your money back over and over and reinvesting?
Mm-hmm. What revenue streams do you tend to focus on to help monetize the marketing efforts?
Oh gosh, there's also a bunch. So what I do is I follow this principle of digital marketing. It's called the value ladder, which again, you see it in every single business where you have your low ticket offers and your high ticket offers. The value ladder really is just about, for example, if you want to sell merch, that's great. We can sell merch, but we have to be strategic about how we sell merch, because nowadays everybody is a CEO, everybody's an artist, everybody's, a podcaster, everyone's doing these things. So how do you actually set yourself apart? And that's the biggest differentiating factor of the next person that's telling you to sell this or to sell that. You have to have a strategy in place for it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So you also work with you do the whole like funnel campaigns where you have like a top of funnel strategy and then kind of work your way down. What's your top of funnel stuff that you focus on? Is it all through digital marketing? Do you utilize content for top of funnel? Like, what are some of your top of funnel strategies?
Yeah, so the best way, the way that I do marketing at least, is I help artists understand their ideal fans. So when you understand your ideal fans, now the very first thing that you offer, if it's a lead magnet or whatever it is, it's actually going to serve your audience and it's going to resonate to them, right? So for example, there's an artist I'm working with, and his whole thing is like mental health awareness, right? So how can we actually make this relatable to the audience and not just download my free song in exchange for email? Because also we shouldn't be giving away music for free, right? It's expensive to make music.
Yeah.
So what we did for him was we created an affirmations, like his top 12 favorite affirmations, and then the first tangible item that you get at a discounted rate is like a bracelet with his favorite affirmation. So now it's relatable to the audience, and there's that sense of community and that movement that he's building.
So you talked about some mental health related, right, that you were doing with this artist. And that's something I talk about a lot too. Like, what else is interesting about the artist besides the music? Like how do you work on that? So I use the topic wheel. I don't know if you're familiar with the topic wheel, but I used to also call it just buckets, like personality buckets. So what's authentic to you. So for me, for example, it could be conversations about liberty, it could be pro wrestling, it could be fitness. Those are all also things outside of music that are part of who I am. So like, what could you develop content around of one of those buckets or elements on the topic wheel that is most interesting to you, almost like where skill and knowledge intersect with passion. And that's kind of what we tend to focus on. Like, what is your kind of approach to figure out what kind of content to create?
Absolutely. So there's a strategy very similar to what you're saying, but it's called JK5, and it was created by this woman, Jenna Kushner. And basically it's just, find 5 things that you do on a daily basis, like 5 brand pillars, whatever you want to call it, buckets, whatever. And that way, when you're documenting content, you're not necessarily creating content. So first of all, it's a lot easier to create the content. And then secondly, you're showing 5 different aspects of your life that make you more human. So you're humanizing your social media versus your typical artist that's just saying new show, Spotify, stream this, stream that, So it's very important that you're humanizing yourself and you're injecting that personality as well. But yeah, I mean, even like right now that you mentioned, like mental health being a big thing for you as well, it's just figuring out ways that you can bring that to top of mind for others. And subjectivity in music is way more important than the music these days, which is sad to say, but it's true. The more, because there's so much out there, there's so much out there. So as long as you can hone in on the subjectivity of the music, you're going to actually be able to actually set yourself apart.
Yeah, and people want to connect to a real person, right? These days, I mean, with social media, it's about being social, and it's like, what is it about the artist that I can connect with too? I always say, there's this quote I heard on a CD Baby podcast: music is the last thing that matters until people hear it, and then it's the only thing that matters. So it's like you lead people to the music with brand and storytelling. What type of content do you feel like works best for artists? Like so let's say someone starts a podcast or starts some kind of content around mental health or something they're interested in. Should it be a podcast? Should it be a YouTube channel? What do you tend to focus on?
So it really depends on what is going to be sustainable for the artist, right? Because if you hate YouTube and I tell you, hey, start a YouTube, you're going to be like, oh my God, I got to start a YouTube. And then every single day you're going to be like, film a YouTube video and every day you go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, you know, so you just put it off. So you have to figure out what platform you like. If you love TikTok, go on TikTok. Your audience hangs out already all over the internet, right? So you just have to really do what's best for you and like what's sustainable for you too. Because when you do a YouTube channel, for example, you don't just start by saying, I'm going to release a video. You start by saying, okay, month 1, I need to maybe do 15 videos. Do I have time for that? Do I want to do that? It's a whole thing. So, yeah, it's always having that like goal, like at least the way that I see it. Every time you try to figure out platforms, whatever it is you're doing, set a goal and break it down, reverse engineer it, and then set up micro steps to get there.
Yeah, I love that. With that content, so you're talking about ideal fan earlier. How does someone figure out who their ideal fan is?
It's a great question. So most of the time, it's 2 ways, right? Most of the times, what we'll actually see is that a lot of the times, artists are using their music to cope with whatever events happen through their life. So, sorry,
it's all good.
Sorry, I was not expecting that. So we were saying about
finding your ideal fans.
Finding ideal fans. Thank you. So for finding your ideal fans, essentially you want to do when artists are like, you know, they're understanding who they are, they're coping, all of that stuff. They're writing all their messaging down, all of the pain points that they've been through. And the thing is that when you really realize a lot of times artists are their ideal fans are the people that they used to be years ago. Right? So it's like that younger version of yourself. There's so many ways to find out your ideal fans. There's so many strategies. A lot of people get lost and confused, or they get stuck way too on the surface level where they'll be like, oh, my ideal fan is, give me a second, let me open up Spotify and I'll let you know what my analytics are. And that's different. That's more so just traffic that you're getting. Your ideal fan is someone that if you're standing at a show and you're playing your best set, and there's people in the audience and they're just like jamming out, having a blast, and you're feeding off their energy, that is the person that is going to make you perform better. So those are ideal fans. So the best thing is to actually try to just get a little creative, try to imagine it, try to imagine what they would look like. But really the most important factor about them is the pain points and the pleasure points. Because once you understand them to that psychological level, you're never going to run out of content or ways to resonate.
I always used to say, or I would say in class, if a person, so your ideal fan, when they walk into a mall, like where are they going? Which shops are they going to? Which shop do they have to go to first? Like first I have to go to Urban Outfitters, then I go to Bloomingdale's, whatever it is. I don't even know if those two make sense. Maybe it's Free People afterwards. If they're going to the food court, what are they going to eat? If they're on their phone while they're walking around the mall, what are they doing on their phone? Are they playing on social media? Are they texting friends? Like the more you, I guess, detail you know your ideal fan, the easier it's going to be to reach them, right?
Absolutely. Because like you said, you know, like right now you already identified places they hang out in, you identify what kind of clothes they like. So it's those little similarities, right? Because the next time you go to the mall, you can take a picture at that food court or at that restaurant, and then they'll immediately be like, oh my gosh, I love going there too. And it's connection. Like it's the smallest thing.
Yeah. And then when do you run ads for artists as well?
So I do. I haven't done as much lately just because more right now my biggest push has been helping them actually figure out their organic strategy.
Okay.
Right?
So
yeah.
Organic strategy, what do you mean by that?
Organic strategy is just using like social media, like identifying free traffic sources, right? Because before running ads, you should already have an idea of where they're hanging out in, how to find them, messaging and all that. And also pre-selling your offers to make sure that there's proof of concept, so that, you know, if you go to sell a shirt and it's not selling organically, like if you're not being able to sell your merch through free attempts, then what makes you think that by adding an ad, you're actually going to be able to make that money back? It's a lot of testing and tweaking in the first half.
I love that, because a lot of people that are in a similar space that you are, they just focus on the digital ad side and, you know, building the funnel through digital ads. But what happens? One, I mean, it's a great way to prove the concept by doing it organically, but also what happens if someone doesn't have the money to run ads? I mean, you know, to really build out a funnel on Facebook. I mean, I'm running a few, and if you're not spending at least $10 a day, it's really hard, because when you get to that third layer or fourth layer, like it's like, okay, I'm doing 50 cents to layer 1, 50 cents to layer 2. Like it's not going to convert anything. And having organic strategies to to reach an audience when you don't have the budget. That's really, really awesome. What are some organic strategies that you use?
Yeah, no, that's and that's also, Chris, like such an important thing that you ask, because we see this all the time where artists will run out of money on middle of their campaign, and it's like, oh well, now what, you know?
Yeah.
So organic strategies are essentially like, for example, let's say that you identify that your fans are hanging out at Urban Outfitters, right? Okay, great. So what can we do to actually be present in Urban Outfitters? So does that mean that we maybe put a story post, and then that story post gets reposted by Urban Outfitters on their story, and all of a sudden you get a little bit more traction? Or does that mean that we actually go to Urban Outfitters and ask the cashier if we can play the song, or maybe the cashier likes your song? And I've actually seen that. It just happened to one of the artists I was working with a couple months ago, where the cashier really loved her song and they played it on the Zoomy store, and then now they're talking about to the regional manager about adding it to their playlist. So stuff like that is organic, you know, going in Facebook groups, going on like actually one-to-one messaging on Instagram, finding organizations, especially you mentioned mental health was a big thing. So finding mental health organizations you can partner with, stuff like that. Those are all organic. If anything, it's just relationship building and finding the right creating your own opportunities versus just jumping straight into paid marketing.
So if someone's doing the organic route, the big thing there is they have to just put in the time. So like, me not have the money, but you have to put in a lot of time. It almost sounds like the whole, also what Gary Vee always talks about is like just one-to-one conversations, right? And always almost like trying to figure out how can you start a conversation with people online without calls to actions, the whole jab, right hook, like because like there's so many artists that will just spam. They'll say, hey, I saw you're a fan of Jay-Z, like come check out my track, like you like my track too. That's the wrong way to approach. Like, how would you engage with a total stranger online? So let's say, I guess keep it easy with the mental health topic. Let's say you're part of a mental health group. How would you engage with a total stranger online?
Oh, that's such a great question. I actually do this all the time too. Yeah. But you always want to start with going back to like addressing by name. So find out the name. Always make sure it's public profile so you can actually figure out ways to relate. So you say like, hi, first name, compliment, right? So like, for example, like, hey, Chris, I really loved your last piece about mental health, you know, great tips, great reminder, whatever. And then I immediately ask a question. What inspired you to write that post? How long have you been an advocate for mental health? Stuff like that. Immediately, I complimented you and I dived into your interests. So now we're playing in your field, right? Yeah. So now I ask you a couple of questions, we keep the conversation going. And then at the end, I tie it back in with, you know, for example, if it's about mental health, now you can tie it all back into like, let's say that your top of funnel offer is a monthly mental health like seminar that you do or something like that, or like something related to the subject. So now you say, great, well, you know what? I don't know if this is of interest to you. You know, I have this free event that I do at the end of the month. Would you like the link? And now that link is not only going to have the event, but once they actually sign up to whatever it is you're doing for free, the next page will have whatever offer, merch, songs, pre-saves, whatever it is. So you find ways to integrate what you're doing into the conversation without being spammy. And it's always way more effective because now, you know, even if you were just talking about a new song that you're working on and you're like, oh, you know, you touched about burnout. And that burnout is so, you know, it's such a thing that nobody talks about. Did you know my last song is about this? Would you like to check it out? Now that you have rapport, they would be like jerks if they say no, right? You know? So you kind of put them in that position where they kind of have to say yeah. And at the end of the day, you know, if they don't reply at the end of the day, it's people on the internet. Exactly. So yeah, but that definitely increases your chances always getting that response first before actually diving in with an ask.
I know a lot of artists are like very shy, would call to actions or asks, and they're very nervous. Someone like might overthink, like, okay, now I started this conversation with a stranger, like, am I still going to be authentic to them when at the end of the conversation I have some kind of an ask? So like, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it probably has a lower conversion rate, but what are your thoughts? So let's say you have staying on the same topic, keep it easy. Let's say it's a free mental health ebook or something, or course. If they click on your profile like banner says click the link for the free course, 10 free tips for mental health, whatever it is. So your profile is the call to action, right? So if they click on your profile, they're like, oh, this person's also in the same field and they have this free ebook. Let me go sign up for their free ebook. So the conversion rate is probably a little lower, but it's like almost a little less scary for the ask. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think it's also like how comfortable you are with it, right? Because if you are scared, that scared energy comes across, and then it's weird and it's creepy. So so you have to just do whatever is comfortable for you. But I know like one of the first things is if you are whatever it is you're going to be offering, that should have your profile should already be primed for that. Conversion rate could be a little bit smaller, but at the end of the day, if you do a really good job connecting with them and keeping up with them, even though it's a little bit of legwork, but what happens is if you consistently show up, comment on their stuff, turn on post notifications and actually drive a lot of attention to their page, they're going to be like eventually maybe 3 days from now, they'll actually turn around and start following you. And then consistently through your messaging, you'll get them to take action. And a lot of the times that's like on an email list that takes 90 days, 90 days to get them to take action on what you want to do. So same thing on Instagram. You're consistently nurturing them through your content and they're watching. It might take 2 days, it might take 30 days, but it'll eventually happen.
Yeah. And then when you engage with people on social media, are they the content? So are those the people that are posting or are those the people commenting on the post that you engage with or a little bit of both?
So we're like, what do you mean?
So let's say let's say there's mentalhealth.com and they're posting an article or some kind of a thing on Instagram. You can swipe through like tips. Would you comment on their post or would you comment or engage with the people that are commenting on the post? Does that make sense?
Both because let's say that you're on mentalhealth.org, right? If you comment on the post, now you're creating a relationship with mentalhealth.org, which happens to have a huge audience that could potentially benefit you as well. Right. The people that are commenting though, that's like the one-to-one approach. Yeah. So if you engage with those people or like just drive your attention to their profiles and create new conversations with them, that's one-to-one. Mentalhealth.org would be your one-to-many. And ultimately, if you want to be time efficient, you always want to find these one-to-many opportunities.
I love that. I love how I explained that. And I feel like that strategy works really, really well on Twitter. I've like become a new believer of Twitter because I call it the world's biggest cocktail party that's running 24/7. Like you constantly can go in and engage with people and talk to people. And it just works if you have that kind of a strategy. It's almost like you don't even need to post that much on Twitter, but if you're constantly like posting on your timeline, but if you're constantly having a conversation with people, like doing the one-to-many and then one-to-one on Twitter, I feel like that works really, really well on that platform specifically. Yeah,
and also Twitter is such an underrated tool because you can connect with so many journalists on there as well.
Oh yeah, how do you like? What kind of like music journalists or
music for anything really? They all live on there, and they have you can ask for emails. Like I used to do work for an influencer marketing agency, and one of my roles in the beginning was to actually go and scrape emails for like whatever publications we're talking about influencer marketing. And one of the ways that I would do it is I would go on the Twitters, and on the Twitter pages, the journalists have their email or they'll have conversations, and then you can actually jump in and connect. A lot of media lives on Twitter, and it's amazing.
Well, one thing that I like doing is when I find an article that's like music industry related, when I share it, I try to find out who is the author of that article and tag them. Because a lot of times the funny thing is these authors usually don't have a ton of followers. And when you tag them on a post and you share their article, they're usually really excited that you're sharing their article. So it could work for artists too, because like artists are always helping other artists. So find a really cool article on Bandzoogle or whatever, like this, I also can say this makers, CD Baby, and share and tag the author because the author might be really excited and an artist found benefit from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you make such a good point with that.
So we just like, thanks for going deep with me in the conversation, like really like offering some tools for people who are listening. But someone's listening to all of this, right? And they're like, some of it may went over their head. Some of it they're like, man, I got to do some homework and got to take some notes and do some searching. Where should they start?
Where should they start with like where they are with their career right now?
Yeah, where should they start in trying to dive more into creating an actual like e-commerce business and like building a business where they can monetize themselves without having to depend on labels or an investor or anything?
I think that's such a great question. I think the best part is to start by two things, right? Understanding your artist identity, like what it is you actually want, how do you want to show up in the world, and what your purpose and vision and all that is behind your music,
Mhm.
and that who that listener is, like that ideal fan.
Mhm.
Because everything else is a byproduct, right? Your offers are a byproduct of understanding of serving your audience. Your like everything, your value ladder, all of that is secondary. It
Mhm.
all really starts with a really strong foundation.
Mhm. And what is it that you offer for artists? Like if an artist wanted to get involved with Fame Hackers, like what is it? Um, I guess like what are the products that you offer for the artists or services?
So that's also a good question. So we're more aligned on the coaching consulting side of
Yep.
things, where we take them through those 4 pillars of foundation, audience, monetization, exposure. We also have a 5-day boot camp, and the boot camp is all about, it's called Grow Your Fan Base. And in those 5 days, it's just all like, it's super affordable to it. It's just about like things like, you know, who you are as an artist, who's your ideal fan, where to find them, how to use social media effectively and efficiently, how to create content efficiently, viral strategies, all these different things. We also touch base on the value ladder and what those offers look like, and then also on so many more things, how to monetize, how to brand, all that. So it's like a 5-day intensive.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's so that's also a really great starting point as well, because it lays down a really strong, solid foundation.
And the one-on-one stuff, is that as needed, or do you do that as like packages that you buy?
We have
10 sessions?
programs. Yeah, no, that's another great question. We have programs, we have group coaching and just one-on-one, and that's just also based on what we do is we tailor our plans per artist, because at the end of the day, everybody has different goals.
Mhm.
So we do a full analysis of where they are right now and where they want to get there, and then we just create those. Normally, it's like 3 months programs. But yeah, again, and also, Chris, what I can send to you as well is I have also a PDF that I wrote, like a guide, and then that you can also give away to the listeners as well.
Awesome, cool. I love to share that
Yeah.
for sure. And then, what are some things that people should run from when they? Because like, you know, they're always going to see things, promos online, and like, sign up for this to get more fans, do this to get more streams, get this, sign up for this to get on radio. Like, what are some keywords or things people should look out for, and like just run the other direction when those kinds of people reach out?
That's another. You're full of great questions.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, artists should be really afraid of anyone that tries to, like, for example, if you're in marketing, right? And if
Mhm.
you're trying to get marketing and they're trying to sell you, I see this all the time with YouTube promotions or YouTube growth or Instagram growth, and there's no way of actually tracking the data, right? If you
Mhm.
run an ad, you can see the back end, you can see the data. But if people can't show you and they're like, yeah, just pay this amount and it's guaranteed, or you're going to get 10K.
Mhm.
First rule of marketing is you can never guarantee anything.
Yeah.
So if someone's guaranteeing something, that's a huge red flag. It's like you're probably going to get botted and filled with a bunch of bots and fake followers.
Mhm.
So I would run the other way from those. Be really careful with Spotify playlisting. A lot of playlists are fake. And then also they create like passive listeners, which is not ideal fans anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we haven't worked together before, and I only met you from reaching out. But I love the things that you shared, and you know, if any artists like looking for a good resource, I feel like Isabella is a really great resource. So definitely reach out to her if you need some help on how to navigate this digital marketing world and run from radio promoters, playlist pluggers, people that promise you the world. Just like you mentioned, I mean, that stuff is, if you get, I mean, even if it works, let's say you get 100,000 views, like, are those real views? Like, you can get 100,000 views really easily with digital marketing if you target the right fans, like really easy. And people like Isabella can definitely probably coach you through that and teach you how to reach those fans.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and when you reached out, you also talked about Submit Hub. I want to take a quick minute about Submit Hub, because another thing a lot of artists believe they need to do, right? So like, when you think of an artist team, like one of the first people to add on a team is your publicist. And I always say, and I know what your thoughts are on this, but unless you're spending, it's gonna be different for every artist, but let's say a publicist costs $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. Unless you're spending at least on your own digital marketing and you know how to really do it, and then you have an additional $2,000, then maybe, not even guaranteed, maybe consider a publicist. But and Submit Hub is such a better platform for an independent artist. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, on the whole publicist thing, and then utilizing Submit Hub as a strategy to get more press.
That is such a great thing. So Submit Hub, Publicists. The thing is that people think that just because you're getting featured on blogs and this and whatever, that you're gaining exposure. And yeah, you might be getting a little bit credibility, but you're not really gaining fans. Again, people don't really care. They'll see an article and be like, cool, no way to engage. So Submit Hub is also like, now you can also do influencer campaigns and stuff like that from Submit Hub. The thing is that there's a little problem with Submit Hub is that they actually playlisters are they encourage playlisters to give feedback, and a lot of the times artists are not ready for that feedback. So mentally they already take a huge toll, and they're like, oh, screw this person, they don't know what they're talking about, this, that, whatever, and it creates a lot more damage than good, because artists, it's their craft, it's their baby,
of course
they're not ready for that criticism. So that's one of the things is, okay, first of all, you're probably not going to get playlisted a lot, and if you are, you're also going to go through a lot of feedback that's going to hurt your ego. And then the thing is, after that is also like, just because you're on a playlist doesn't mean exposure. So what happens is you spend a lot of money to be on a playlist that does nothing for you, no ROI.
Completely agree. I mean, Spotify is what I call a marketing black hole. It's like, sure, you can get a lot of streams on Spotify somehow, but you have absolutely no way to retarget those people right now. And you can on other platforms. So, and with the feedback, one thing I wanted to say just for the listeners is, there's people that love the Beatles and think they're the greatest band ever, and there's people that cannot stand the Beatles and they think they're awful and overrated. And if that happens for an artist at that caliber, take feedback with a grain of salt. Maybe you can learn something from it and apply it to your career, but it's not the end all be all. Like, who is some playlist curator giving you feedback? Like, what's their credentials? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's people that love and hate the Beatles, so there's people that love and hate the Rolling Stones, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's easier said than done, but don't let it hurt the ego.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, music is subjective,
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. This is fun. I want to ask you a couple of quick little fun rapid fire questions. Getting to know Isabella. What was your first concert you've been to, or your first memorable concert?
Oh gosh, Good Charlotte.
Oh, nice. Where in what venue?
I don't ask me the venue. I don't remember. It was in Fort Lauderdale, I think. I don't know where it was. I was too young. But yeah, I think I was like 14.
Nice. That's a good band.
Yeah.
When you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Oh, Steve Jobs.
Like it. What are the books, documentaries, or podcasts you share the most?
Books, documentaries, or podcasts. I think for books, I share this one a lot. Millionaire Success Habits and Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Okay. I see some a stack of books and
there's a bunch
back there.
My success habits though get stolen all the time.
What are some of your favorites back there? It looks like on the bottom is that a Gary Vee book?
No, that's actually The Music Business by Donald Passman. And then the Ari Hurston book is right above it.
Okay. I thought there was some familiar looking books back there.
Yeah, and some of them are just personal development, like Think and Grow Rich, Start with Why. Traffic Secrets and Steve Jobs are right over here.
Think and Grow Rich is another good one.
I'm sorry?
Think and Grow Rich is another good book.
Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Best advice. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
What's the most common bad advice you hear given in our industry?
Bad advice given in the industry. I think, again, it's just focusing on the promotions and focusing on the wrong things and finding the marketers and finding the people that, finding a manager and all these things that you don't really need in the beginning.
Yeah, so true. What is something that the world needs more of?
Kindness.
Yeah.
For sure. Positivity and kindness, especially in the music industry.
Yeah, especially music industry, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, before I ask you the last question, I ask everyone, I guess, where can people find you and get in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram, either at The Fame Hackers or Isword. It's my personal one, IZZWRD.
Awesome. And then what's the website too?
It's thefamehackers.com.
Okay, I'm gonna sure link all that up in the show notes for this episode. And then before I ask you the last question, I ask everyone just thanks so much for reaching out and for being on the podcast and sharing some amazing skills and knowledge with artists. Hopefully they'll learn a lot from this. They're inspired. I'm sure their wheels will be turning a little bit after all this. And thanks just for being another person out there that was really doing some real stuff that really actually helps independent artists versus like all the stuff that you see out there, all the other the fake coaches and all that things you say out there. So I'm just really happy to share your story a little bit and your journey and what it is that you do and you offer for artists. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks also for the opportunity to share and provide value to this space. Anything I can do to help artists, always count on me.
Awesome. I love it. And the question I ask everyone at the end is, what's your definition of making it?
My definition of making it, that's such a great one. I think it's just time freedom, right? So because everyone's after financial freedom, but I think time freedom, and not just time freedom, but because also anyone can achieve that, but leaving a positive impact on this planet, especially if I'm able to change the music industry to actually head in the direction that it should be, making a fair playing ground for the music, for the independent artists. I think that would be like my biggest success goal, biggest achievement for sure.